Time slowed to a crawl. Zoe watched in horror as the entire tray tipped forward, the crystal wine glass sliding in graceful, inevitable arc toward disaster. The burgundy liquid caught the chandelier light, transforming into a cascade of liquid rubies as it left the glass. Her breath trapped in her throat, her feet frozen to the marble floor, her heart hammering a desperate rhythm that screamed no, no, no. The wine hit its target with devastating precision. It splashed across the man's chest in a dark, spreading stain that devoured the pristine white shirt beneath his charcoal suit jacket. Droplets scattered like blood across what Zoe's trained eye recognized as hand-stitched Italian wool, the kind of suit that cost more than she made in 6 months. Maybe a year. Time snapped back to normal speed. The private dining room of Seoul's most exclusive restaurant fell into suffocating silence. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the soft classical music seemed to fade into nothing. Zoe's entire body went cold, then hot, then cold again. The man she'd just drenched didn't move. He sat perfectly still in his chair at the head of the long table, wine dripping from his lapels onto his lap, staining the fabric in dark rivulets. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe early 30s, with sharp, angular features that could have been carved from marble. His black hair was styled back from his face, revealing a high forehead and eyes so dark they appeared black in the low light. Those eyes lifted to meet hers. Zoe's knees nearly buckled. She'd served plenty of powerful men in her 3 years as a waitress, but she'd never felt a gaze like this. It wasn't hot with anger or cold with disdain. It was calculating, like he was a predator assessing whether she was prey or something else entirely. Subscribe to see how this unfolds and comment where you're watching from. I will love to say hello to you. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. The words tumbled from her lips in a breathless rush as she grabbed napkins from the table with shaking hands. The tray, someone bumped me and oh God, your suit. She reached toward him with the napkins, some insane instinct to fix this overriding her common sense. Don't touch him. The shout cracked through the room like a whip. Zoe jerked back as Manager Choi materialized beside her, his face purple with rage. His fingers dug into her upper arm hard enough to bruise. You stupid, clumsy girl. Choi hissed in Korean, then switched to English, probably for the benefit of the foreign businessmen at the table. Do you have any idea who this is? Do you have any concept of what you've just done? I'm sorry, I didn't mean… Mr. Kong, please accept my deepest apologies. Choi bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the table. This girl is new, utterly incompetent. She will be terminated immediately. We will of course cover all cleaning costs, replacement costs, any.
No.
The single word cut through Choi's panicked rambling like a knife through silk. Zoe's head snapped up. The man, Mr. Kong, was looking directly at her. Not at Choi. Not at the ruined suit. At her. Sir? Choi's voice climbed an octave. I said no. Mr. Kang's English was flawless, barely touched by an accent, each word crisp and controlled. He rose from his chair in one fluid movement, and Zoe realized with a fresh jolt of fear that he was tall, easily 6 feet, and built like someone who did more than sit behind a desk. Leave us. But sir, the damage.
Leave
us. This time the words carried an edge that made the hair on Zoe's arms stand up. It was the voice of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. The voice of someone dangerous. Choi's face went from purple to white. He released Zoe's arm and backed away, bowing repeatedly. Of course, Mr. Kong. Whatever you wish. The other men at the table exchanged glances, some confused, others knowing, all wary. They seemed to sense something Zoe didn't understand. As Choi fled and the door clicked shut behind him, Leaving her alone with this table full of suited men, Zoe's fear crystallized into something approaching terror. She'd heard whispers about the private rooms on the top floor, about the men who dined here, men who didn't appear in society pages despite their obvious wealth, men whose names made hardened servers go pale.
Kong.
Oh God.
Kong.
What's your name? His voice was quieter now, but no less commanding.
Zoe.
Zoe Chen. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Korean? Half. My mother was Korean, my father was Chinese American. They died when I was 16. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Why was she telling him this? Something flickered in those dark eyes. Not pity. She didn't think this man was capable of pity, but something else. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. He studied her in silence for a long moment. Zoe became acutely aware of everything. Her cheap black uniform dress, the wine stains splashed across her apron, her hair escaping its bun in sweaty tendrils, the way her hands were still shaking. She probably looked like exactly what she was, a broke 24-year-old working 3 jobs to pay off medical school debts she'd never be able to afford. How much do you make here? He asked abruptly. The question threw her. What? Per month? How much? I don't see how that's. Answer the question, Zoe. The way he said her name made her stomach flip in a way that had nothing to do with fear. About 2 million won. Maybe 2.5 with tips. And your other jobs? Her eyes widened. How did you? You have calluses on your right hand from writing, but not typing. Student loans? At her shocked nod, he continued. Medical school, I'd guess, based on the textbook edge I can see in your bag by the door. Anatomy. You're juggling multiple jobs, probably haven't slept properly in months, which is why you were unsteady enough to spill that wine in the first place. Zoe's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. He deduced her entire life from a 30-second observation? Kong Dae. She now remembered the whispered name, Kong Dae, the eldest son of the Kong family, turned to face her fully. The wine stain spread across his chest like a wound, but he didn't seem to notice or care. His expression was unreadable. I'm going to make you an offer, he said. You can refuse and walk out of here with a month's severance pay and a reference letter that will get you hired anywhere in Seoul. Or you can accept and solve both of our problems. I don't understand. I need a fiancé. He said it as casually as he might say he needed a car or a cup of coffee. Temporarily. For 6 months, maybe less. You need money and a way out of this life. He gestured vaguely at her uniform. Marry me, and I'll clear your debts, set you up in an apartment, and pay you 50 million won. The room tilted. Zoe grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. You're insane.
I'm practical.
His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. There are people who want me dead, Miss Chen. People who believe I'm vulnerable because I'm unmarried, unattached, with no heir. A fiancé, a wife, changes the equation. Makes me appear stable, established, less likely to be challenged. So, hire an actress. This is Korea. There must be dozens of girls who could be bought by my enemies just as easily as I bought them. His eyes bored into hers. But you? You're nobody. You have no connections, no family in the right circles, no leverage anyone could use. You're perfect precisely because you're random. No one would believe I'd planned this. This is crazy. You don't even know me. I know enough. He pulled something from his inner jacket pocket, miraculously dry despite the wine catastrophe. A small black box. Zoe's heart stopped as he flipped it open to reveal a ring that caught the light and threw it back in sharp, expensive glints. Diamond. Probably several carats. I know you're desperate enough to work yourself into the ground. I know you're smart enough for medical school, but humble enough to endure this job. I know you're brave enough to reach for me with napkins even when you were terrified. His eyes softened almost imperceptibly. And I know that right now I'm offering you a way out. The ring glittered between them like a trap lined with diamonds. Zoe's mind raced. This was madness. Utter madness. This man was clearly dangerous, possibly a criminal, definitely powerful, absolutely not someone she should entangle herself with. She should run. Should refuse. Should. My manager is going to fire me anyway, she heard herself whisper. Isn't he? Yes. And I'm 3 months behind on rent. I assumed as much. This is insane. Yes, Kangdae agreed. But is it any more insane than the life you're living now? Slowly drowning in debt, working yourself sick, with no end in sight. He had a point. God help her, he had a point. 6 months? She asked, her voice barely audible. 6 months. You play the part of my fiancé, then my wife. You attend events, smile for cameras, live in my house. In return, your debts disappear. You get an education fund for when this is over. And you walk away with enough money to start over. He paused. All you have to lose is half a year. What I'm offering is freedom. Freedom. The word hung in the air between them like a promise or a curse. Zoe looked at the ring. At this impossibly handsome, impossibly dangerous man who just offered her an impossible choice. At the wine stains spreading across his expensive suit like spilled blood. This is a mistake, her rational mind screamed. But her hand was already reaching out. I want it in writing, she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. A contract. With every term spelled out. Kangdae's smile was real this time. Sharp and approving, like she'd passed some kind of test. Smart girl. We'll have it drawn up tonight. He took her trembling hand in his steady one and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Welcome to the family, Miss Chen. The weight of the ring felt like a shackle. Or maybe, just maybe, like wings. The lawyer arrived at midnight. Zoe sat in the back of Kangdae's Mercedes, still wearing her wine-stained uniform, watching the city lights blur past. He dismissed his dinner guests with a few curt words, then guided her out through a private exit.
No explanations.
No time to process. Just his hand on the small of her back and the certainty that her life had just changed forever. The car pulled up to a building in Gangnam that was all glass and steel and screaming wealth. Kangdae's penthouse occupied the entire top floor. Jesus, Zoe breathed as they stepped into the foyer. Marble floors. Original art on the walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Seoul's glittering skyline. The lawyer is waiting in my office. Kangdae shrugged off his ruined jacket, not bothering to look at the wine stain that had dried into a dark splotch. You'll want to read every word. Take your time. The office was all dark wood and leather. A thin man in wire-rimmed glasses sat at the conference table, surrounded by papers. He stood when they entered, bowing deeply to Kangdae, then offering Zoe a curious glance. Miss Chun, I'm Attorney Park. I've drafted the agreement per Mr. Kang's specifications. He pushed a thick document across the table. Please review carefully. Zoe sank into a chair and started reading. The legalese was dense, but the terms were clear. 6 months as Kangdae's fiancé, followed by a quiet divorce. 50 million won paid in installments. All her debts cleared immediately. A separate education fund of 20 million won. Housing provided. A monthly allowance for expenses. There's a clause here about public appearances, she said, looking up. It says I have to attend all events you specify. Yes. Kangdae had poured himself a whiskey and now stood by the windows, backlit by the city. Galas, business dinners, family gatherings. You'll need to look the part. Act the part. And this section about confidentiality. I can never tell anyone this is fake. Never. Not while we're married, not after. The penalty for breach is severe. His reflection in the glass was unreadable. If word got out that this was arranged, it defeats the entire purpose. Zoe kept reading. The contract was thorough, painfully so. It covered everything from social media posts to sleeping arrangements, separate rooms, unless appearances required otherwise, to what would happen if either party wanted out early. This says you can terminate at any time with 2 weeks' notice, but I have to stay the full 6 months unless you agree otherwise. I need stability, Kang Dae said simply. You agreed to 6 months. I intend to hold you to it. But you can back out whenever you want. I won't. He turned to face her, and something in his expression made her believe him. I keep my word, Miss Chin. Always. She found the section about physical intimacy. Her cheeks heated. This says, no expectations of a physical relationship unless mutually agreed upon. I'm not buying a prostitute. His voice was cold. I'm buying your time and your discretion. What happens between us beyond that is entirely up to you. Zoe stared at him, trying to reconcile the dangerous man who'd propositioned her in a restaurant with this one who'd just offered her complete bodily autonomy.
Who was he?
She read for another hour, asked a dozen clarifying questions, then finally set down the pen she'd been using to make notes. Okay, I'll sign. Attorney Park produced another document. This is a prenuptial agreement. It protects Mr. Kang's assets while ensuring your payments. Standard procedure. Zoe signed both documents, her hand steadier than she'd expected. Kang Dae's signature joined hers, bold and decisive. When it was done, Attorney Park gathered the papers, bowed again, and left. The silence in his wake was deafening. Your things, Kang Dae said. Where are you living? A studio in Itaewon. But I don't have much. Pack what matters. We'll send someone for the rest. He checked his watch. My driver will take you now. Be back here by noon tomorrow. We're having lunch with my mother. Zoe's stomach dropped. Your mother? Already? She's the reason I need a fiancé in the first place. A muscle ticked in his jaw. My uncle is challenging my position as head of the family business. He claims I'm too young, too reckless, too unmarried to be trusted with a company. My mother sides with me, but other family members are wavering. A wife stabilizes things, shows maturity. Commitment. What kind of business? Zoe asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Kang Dae's smile was dangerous. The kind that doesn't get discussed in contracts. He moved closer, and Zoe caught the scent of his cologne mixed with wine. But you're smart enough to have guessed. You saw the men at that dinner. You saw how your manager reacted to my name. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman who operates in gray areas. He didn't deny it, didn't apologize. Does that change things? Zoe looked at the ring on her finger, at the contract on the table, at the man who'd bought her freedom with blood money. I already signed. So you did. He stepped back. Tomorrow noon. Don't be late. My mother despises tardiness. The drive back to her apartment felt surreal. When Zoe finally climbed the 4 flights of stairs to her studio, she stood in the doorway and looked at her life. The mattress on the floor, the hot plate on the counter, the textbooks stacked against the walls, the single window that overlooked an alley. She'd just sold herself to a criminal. And the worst part? She wasn't sure she regretted it. Kang Dae's mother was terrifying. She sat at the head of the table in a private room at a restaurant that made Zoe's former workplace look cheap, her silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun, her black dress simple but clearly expensive. Her eyes, the same dark, calculating eyes as her son, swept over Zoe like a judge assessing a defendant. So, she said in Korean, you're the girl my son has chosen. Zoe's Korean was rusty but functional. Yes, ma'am. It's an honor to meet you. The woman, Mrs. Kang, picked up her teacup. You're very pretty. Good bone structure. But pretty girls are common. What else do you offer my son? Zoe felt Kang Dae tense beside her. Mother. I'm asking the girl, Dea. Let her answer. Zoe met those sharp eyes. I offer loyalty, discretion, and I won't cause trouble. Mrs. Kang's eyebrows rose. Won't cause trouble? How refreshing. The last girl he dated was in the tabloids every week. She set down her teacup with a decisive click. You have no family? My parents died 8 years ago. Siblings?
No, ma'am.
Education? I was studying pre-med before I had to drop out. Why did you drop out?
Debt.
My parents' medical bills. Something shifted in Mrs. Kang's expression. Not softness, exactly, but understanding. You worked to pay them?
3 jobs.
It still wasn't enough. Mrs. Kang studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. You're a survivor.
Good.
My son needs a survivor, not a delicate flower. She turned to Kang Dae. She'll do, but she needs proper clothes, proper training. She can't meet the family looking like this. Zoe glanced down at her department store dress, the nicest thing she owned, and felt heat creep up her neck. I've already arranged it, Kang Dae said smoothly. She'll have everything she needs by the engagement party. Engagement party? Zoe's head snapped toward him. You didn't mention. Friday night. The whole family will be there. His expression dared her to argue. We'll announce our engagement officially. The wedding will be in 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Zoe's head spun. Mrs. Kang stood. I'll have my stylist contact you. And Zoe. She paused at the door. Welcome to the family. You'll need thick skin to survive us. After she left, Zoe turned on Kang Dae. An engagement party? In 3 days? You can't just spring this on me. I told you there would be public appearances. You didn't say I'd have to meet your entire family in front of half of Seoul. Would it have changed your answer? He leaned back in his chair, maddeningly calm. You signed the contract. This is part of it. Zoe wanted to throw something at him. I need time to prepare. To learn about your family, your world. I can't just walk into this blind. For the first time, his expression softened slightly. You're right. I'll have my assistant compile files on every family member. You'll have 3 days to memorize them. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket.
Come.
We have an appointment. What appointment? The stylist my mother mentioned. You need an entire new wardrobe. The next 3 hours were a blur. Zoe was measured, prodded, dressed and undressed in outfit after outfit while a tiny woman named Madam Choi circled her like a predator, barking orders in rapid Korean. Dresses, skirts, blouses, shoes, jewelry, all in styles Zoe had only ever seen in magazines. Kang Dae sat in a leather chair, watching. Every time Zoe emerged from the dressing room, his eyes tracked over her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. That one, he said when she stepped out in a floor-length emerald gown that hugged her curves. For the engagement party, Zoe looked at herself in the mirror. The girl staring back was a stranger, elegant, sophisticated, expensive. I look beautiful. The word was quiet but firm. When their eyes met in the mirror, something electric passed between them. Madam Choi cleared her throat. Very suitable, Mr. Kang. Now, for daywear. By the time they finished, Zoe had enough clothes to fill 3 closets. The bill made her dizzy, more than she'd made in 2 years of waiting tables. This is insane, she muttered as they left the boutique. This is necessary. Kang Dae guided her into his car. My world judges on appearances. You need to look like you belong, or they'll eat you alive. Like your mother? His lips twitched. My mother was gentle today. Wait until you meet my uncle. That night, in the guest room of Kang Dae's penthouse, her room now, he'd said, pointing to a space twice the size of her entire apartment. Zoe lay awake studying the files his assistant had delivered. Kong family tree. Business interests. Known associates. Rival families. She was marrying into a dynasty built on violence and money. A world where one wrong word could get someone killed. What the hell had she gotten herself into? The engagement party was held at an estate that looked like something out of a period drama, all traditional architecture and manicured gardens, with paper lanterns casting golden light across stone paths. Zoe's hands shook as she touched up her lipstick in the car. "Breathe," Kangdae said beside her. He looked devastating in a tailored black suit, his hair swept back, a subtle pattern of dragons embroidered into his tie. "You've studied. You know their names, their positions. You'll be fine." "Easy for you to say. You grew up in this world. And you survived medical school while working 3 jobs. This is nothing." He reached over and took her hand. The gesture was performative. They were about to walk in as an engaged couple, but his thumb brushed over her knuckles in a way that felt real. "Stay close to me. If anyone makes you uncomfortable, squeeze my hand twice. I'll handle it." The warmth in his voice surprised her. "Thank you." His eyes met hers. "We're in this together now, Zoe. That means something, contract or not." They stepped out of the car to a barrage of camera flashes. Zoe hadn't expected press, but of course there was press. This was the Kong family's eldest son announcing his engagement. She pasted on a smile and let Kangdae guide her up the steps, his hand firm on her waist. Inside, the party was already in full swing. Women in designer dresses, men in expensive suits, champagne flowing like water. Every head turned as they entered. "Everyone," Kangdae's voice cut through the chatter, "I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Zoe Chen." The room erupted in polite applause and barely concealed curiosity. Zoe felt like a specimen under a microscope. The first hour was a gauntlet. Kangdae introduced her to what felt like hundreds of people, cousins, business associates, family friends. She smiled until her face hurt, answered the same questions over and over, laughed at jokes she didn't find funny. And then she met Uncle Kongmin. He was shorter than Kangdae, stockier, with a cruel twist to his mouth that his smile couldn't hide. "So this is the famous Zoe," he said in English, his accent thick. "A waitress, I hear. How unexpected." Zoe felt Kangdae go rigid beside her. "Zoe was a medical student," he said coolly. "She took time off to handle family matters." Of course. Kongmin's eyes crawled over her. Still quite the change from the models and socialites you usually date. One wonders what convinced you to settle for someone so ordinary. Zoe squeezed Kangdae's hand twice. His response was immediate. "You'll have to excuse us, Uncle. My fiancé and I haven't had a moment alone all evening." He swept Zoe away before Kongmin could respond, his jaw clenched tight. They ended up on a veranda overlooking the gardens, away from the crowd. Kangdae's hands gripped the railing, his knuckles white. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "He's an asshole," Zoe supplied. "Yeah, I got that." A surprised laugh burst from him. Most people are too intimidated by him to be that blunt. Most people aren't fake engaged to his nephew. She moved to stand beside him. The night air was cool, a relief after the stuffy party. "He really hates you, doesn't he?" "He wants what I have."
Control of the family.
"Power." Kangdae's expression was dark. "He'd do anything to get it, including destroying me."
"Why?"
"What did you do?" "I existed. I was born first to the right branch of the family." He turned to face her. "In my world, Zoe, birth order is everything. My father died when I was 20. I inherited his position. My uncle has been trying to take it from me ever since. That's why you need a wife. To look stable. To look unassailable." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was intimate, tender. To look like I have something worth protecting. Zoe's breath caught. They were alone on the veranda, but anyone could see them through the windows. This was still performance. Had to be. But the way he was looking at her. We should go back inside, she whispered. In a moment, his hand lingered on her cheek. First, I need to do something.
What? This.
He kissed her. It was soft at first, almost tentative, giving her time to pull away. But Zoe didn't pull away. She couldn't. Her hands fisted in his jacket as his arms came around her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, and fire exploded through her veins. This wasn't performance. This was real. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kangdae rested his forehead against hers. We're being watched, he murmured. Through the window. 3 people, including my uncle. So, it was performance. Of course it was. Disappointment crashed through her. But then he added, that's why I had to make it convincing. His thumb traced her jaw. Did it work? Yes, Zoe breathed, and she wasn't sure which of them she was trying to convince. They went back inside. The party continued. But everything felt different now. Every time Kangdae touched her, his hand on her back, his arm around her shoulders, she felt that kiss like an echo. Every time their eyes met across the room, electricity sparked. This was dangerous. She was supposed to be acting. This was a business arrangement. But her racing heart didn't seem to understand that. Later, as they were leaving, an elderly woman stopped them. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile. Kangdae's grandmother, Zoe remembered from the files. Take care of my grandson, she said to Zoe in Korean, squeezing her hand. He pretends to be hard, but he has a soft heart. He needs someone to protect it. In the car ride home, Zoe couldn't stop thinking about those words. About the kiss. About the way Kangdae had defended her against his uncle without hesitation. Thank you, she said finally. For tonight. For handling Kangmin. You don't need to thank me. His voice was rough. You're mine now. I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in his tone should have bothered her. Instead, it sent heat curling through her stomach. She was in so much trouble. Living with Kangdae was strange. The penthouse was massive enough that they could avoid each other if they wanted, and for the first week after the engagement party, they mostly did. He left early for business meetings that Zoe suspected involved things she didn't want to know about. She spent her days studying for the MCAT, using the quiet and financial stability to finally focus on her abandoned dreams. But every evening they had dinner together. His rule. We need to be comfortable with each other, he'd said. Couples who've been together for months don't act like strangers. We need to build familiarity. So they ate together, talked about safe topics, her studies, his legitimate business interests, books they'd read, places they'd traveled. Slowly, carefully, they learned each other. Zoe discovered that Kangdae loved old movies, especially film noir. That he spoke 4 languages fluently. That he had a scar on his left shoulder he never explained. That he took his coffee black and drank exactly 2 cups in the morning, never more. And he learned about her. Her love of medical dramas, even the unrealistic ones. Her habit of humming while she studied. The way she tucked her hair behind her left ear when she was nervous. How she'd always wanted to be a surgeon, to save lives the way doctors couldn't save her parents. Why a surgeon specifically? He asked one evening over wine. Control, Zoe said simply. In surgery, you have control. You can fix what's broken if you're skilled enough. I liked that idea. That you could make a difference with your own 2 hands. Something dark flickered across his face. Control is an illusion. You seem pretty in control of your life.
Doi.
He swirled his wine glass. My father died and left me an empire I was too young to run. My uncle has been trying to kill me for 10 years. I'm sitting here with a fake fiancé because I can't trust anyone enough for a real relationship. His laugh was bitter. So much control. It was the first time he'd been truly honest with her. Zoe set down her fork. Someone's trying to kill you? Multiple people, probably. He said it so casually. It's the nature of my world. You don't rise to the top without making enemies. Aren't you afraid? Every day. His eyes met hers. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you alive. That's no way to live. It's the only way I know. He stood abruptly. I have a meeting. Don't wait up. He left, and Zoe sat alone in the massive dining room, staring at his half-finished meal. For the first time, she saw past the powerful, dangerous man to the person underneath. Someone who was tired, alone, trapped in a life he never chose. She understood that feeling. The next morning, she found him asleep on the couch in his office, still in his suit from the night before. Papers were scattered across his desk, and there were shadows under his eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. Zoe grabbed a blanket from the bedroom and draped it over him. He stirred but didn't wake. In sleep, his face lost some of its hardness. He looked younger, vulnerable. Dangerous thought. She was heading back to her room when his phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a message preview. The shipment was intercepted. 2 men dead. Jean suspects your uncle. Zoe's blood went cold. 2 men dead. This wasn't just corporate intrigue or family drama. People were dying in Kangdae's world. Real people. What had she gotten herself into? That evening, Kangdae was different.
Tense.
Distracted. They ate in silence until Zoe couldn't take it anymore. I saw the message this morning, she said. His fork froze halfway to his mouth. What message? About the shipment. The men who died. He set down his fork very carefully. You shouldn't have seen that. I didn't mean to. Your phone was on the table when I was covering you with a blanket. She met his gaze. Is it true? Did your uncle kill them? Probably. And you're just what? Going to let it go? Of course not. His voice was ice. I'm going to destroy him. But I'll do it my way in my time. Going to war costs lives, more lives than you saw in that message. I need to be strategic. Strategic. Zoe laughed bitterly. People are dying, Kangdae. People die in my world every day. He slammed his hand on the table, making her jump. You think I don't know that? You think I don't feel every single death? They're my people, my responsibility. But if I react emotionally, if I go charging in for revenge, more people die. Maybe even you. The last 2 words hung in the air. Me? Zoe whispered. Kangdae's expression shifted to something raw. You're my fiancé now. That makes you a target. My uncle knows the best way to hurt me is through people He stopped abruptly. People you what? People I'm responsible for, he finished. But his eyes said something else. The tension stretched between them, electric and dangerous. Finally, Kangdae stood. I've arranged for a bodyguard. He'll shadow you whenever you leave the penthouse. I don't need a... This isn't negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. Jean will be with you starting tomorrow. He's the best. He left before she could protest. Zoe sat alone, her appetite gone, wondering when this fake marriage had started to feel terrifyingly real. Jean was a mountain of a man with kind eyes and hands that could probably snap her in half. He appeared at breakfast the next morning, bowed politely, and informed Zoe he'd be accompanying her to the library. This is ridiculous, Zoe muttered as they rode the elevator down. I'm just studying. What could possibly happen? Jin's expression didn't change. Mr. Kang's orders, miss. The library trip was uneventful. Jean stayed 6 feet behind her, silent and watchful. Zoe tried to ignore him and focus on organic chemistry, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. On the way home, Jean suddenly grabbed her arm. Walk faster. Don't look back. What?
Now.
His urgency terrified her. Zoe walked faster, then ran as Jean pulled her into a side street. Behind them, she heard footsteps. Shouts in Korean. Get in. A black car screeched up beside them. Jean shoved Zoe into the back seat and dove in after her. The car peeled out. What's happening? Zoe's heart hammered. You were being followed. 3 men. Jean was on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. Then, to her, Mr. Kong is meeting us at the penthouse. When they arrived, Kong Dae was pacing the living room like a caged animal. The moment he saw Zoe, something in his face cracked. He crossed to her in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. Are you hurt? His hands moved over her frantically, checking for injuries.
I've fine.
Jean got me out before. Before what? Before they grabbed you? Killed you. His voice was ragged.
Jesus, Zoe.
She'd never seen him like this. Uncontrolled, afraid.
Kang Dae, I'm okay.
You're not okay. None of this is okay. He pulled back, his hands framing her face. This is my fault. I brought you into this world, put a target on your back. You saved me from drowning in debt. I chose this. You didn't choose to be hunted. The anguish in his eyes stole her breath. I can't if something happened to you. He kissed her. Not for show, not for witnesses. Just them, in his living room, with Jean diplomatically facing away. This kiss was desperate, claiming, full of fear and relief and something deeper that neither of them could name. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Kong Dae pressed his forehead to hers. I'm ending this. Today. My uncle has gone too far. What are you going to do? What I should have done months ago. His expression hardened back into the dangerous man she'd first met. I'm going to war. The next 3 days were chaos. Kong Dae left before dawn and came back after midnight, when he came back at all. When he was home, his office was full of grim-faced men having intense conversations in Korean. Jean never left Zoe's side, and 2 more bodyguards appeared to patrol the penthouse. Zoe felt like a prisoner in a gilded cage. She tried to study, tried to focus, but all she could think about was Kong Dae out there somewhere, doing violent things she couldn't imagine, risking his life. For her. On the 3rd night, he finally came home at a reasonable hour. His suit was rumpled, his tie loose, blood on his knuckles. Zoe shot off the couch. You're hurt. It's not my blood. But he let her lead him to the bathroom, let her clean his hands with warm water and antiseptic. His eyes tracked her face the whole time. Is it done? She asked quietly.
Yes.
My uncle won't be a problem anymore. She didn't ask what that meant. Didn't want to know. And the men who followed me? Handled. His hand caught hers. You're safe now. I promise. You can't promise that. Not in your world. I can promise that I'll die before I let anyone hurt you. The intensity in his voice made her shiver. That's not the contract talking, Zoe. That's me. She looked at this man who'd started as a stranger, became a fake fiancé, and had somehow become something more. Something real and terrifying and intoxicating. We need to talk about what's happening here, she whispered. I know. This wasn't supposed to be real. I know. I'm leaving in 5 months. I know. His thumb traced circles on her palm. But that doesn't change how I feel right now. How do you feel? Instead of answering, he kissed her again. And this time, Zoe kissed back like her life depended on it. Because maybe, in some way it did. They got married on a Saturday in May. The wedding was smaller than the engagement party, but no less extravagant. A garden ceremony at the family estate, 200 guests, Enough flowers to stock a florist for a year. Zoe wore a custom gown that made her look like a princess. Kangdae wore a tuxedo that made her forget how to breathe. "You look beautiful," he murmured when she reached him at the altar. "You look terrified," she whispered back. His lips twitched. "I'm marrying a woman I barely know in front of everyone I've ever met." Terror seems appropriate, but his hands were steady when he slid the wedding band onto her finger. And his voice didn't shake when he said, "I do." Zoe's voice didn't shake either, though her heart was hammering.
Ido.
The kiss was chaste, appropriate for public viewing. But Kangdae's hand tightened on her waist, and Zoe felt the promise in it. "Later," it said. "We'll finish this later." The reception was a blur of champagne and congratulations and dances with strangers. Zoe smiled until her face hurt, played the blushing bride, accepted well wishes from people who had no idea this was all fake. Except it didn't feel fake anymore. During their first dance, Kangdae held her close. "You're doing well," he murmured against her ear. "I had a good teacher." "I didn't teach you how to look at me like that." Her breath caught. "Like what?" "Like you might actually care." His eyes searched hers. "Do you, Zoe? Care?" The question hung between them, dangerous and inevitable. Around them, guests watched, cameras flashed, but in that moment, it was just the two of them. "Yes," she breathed. "God help me, yes." His expression shifted to something fierce and possessive.
Good.
"Because I'm not letting you go at the end of 6 months." "That's not the deal." "I don't care about the deal." He spun her, and when she came back to him, his lips brushed her ear. "I'm ripping up that contract. This is real now." Zoe's heart soared and plummeted at once. "Kangdae, I love you." The words were quiet but certain. "I think I started falling the moment you reached for me with those napkins, terrified but brave. I tried to fight it, told myself it was just the arrangement, but I can't pretend anymore." Tears pricked Zoe's eyes. "This is insane. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with too much cream. I know you hum when you study. I know you're brilliant and stubborn and kind. I know you see me. Not the criminal, not the boss, just me." He pulled back to look at her. "Tell me you feel it too." The music swelled. The moment stretched. Zoe thought about the contract in the safe, about the money and the 6-month timeline and the plan to walk away. Then she thought about Kangdae holding her after the attack, coming home bloody to make sure she was safe, looking at her like she was the only real thing in his violent world. "I feel it," she whispered. "I'm terrified, but I feel it." He kissed her then, in front of everyone, deep and claiming. The guests cheered. Cameras flashed. But Zoe only felt him, his hands on her waist, his heart beating against hers, his love wrapping around her like armor. Later, much later, in the penthouse that was now legally theirs together, Kangdae carried her over the threshold. Not because tradition demanded it, but because he wanted to. Because she let him. "Last chance to back out," he murmured against her neck. "After tonight, you're mine for real." Zoe's hands fisted in his hair. "Promise." His laugh was low and full of heat. "Promise." He carried her to his bedroom, their bedroom now. And when he laid her down on silk sheets and covered her body with his, Zoe finally let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, the best mistakes were the ones you never regretted. Zoe woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and Kangdae's arm heavy across her waist. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The wedding, the reception, the night that followed. She was married. Actually, truly married to a man she'd met less than 2 months ago. And she didn't regret it. "Stop thinking so loud," Kangdae mumbled against her neck. "It's Sunday. We're not required to think on Sundays."
Zoe laughed.
"That's not how thinking works."
"It is now."
"I'm in charge." but his arms tightened around her, pulling her closer. What are you worrying about? Everything.
This. Us.
The fact that we basically got married on a dare. It wasn't a dare. It was a business arrangement that became something else. He rolled her to face him. His hair was mussed from sleep, his eyes soft in a way she'd never seen. Regrets.
No.
The word came easily. Honestly. You. Never. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. Though I should probably tell you something. What? I already shredded the contract. Last week. Zoe's eyes went wide. You what? The one that said this ends in 6 months. The one with the payment schedule and confidentiality clauses. He grinned at her shock. I burned it in my office fireplace. Very dramatic. Jean said I was being reckless. You burned our contract. I burned the fake contract. This marriage is real now. His expression turned serious, which means no predetermined ending. No walking away when time's up. Just us, figuring it out as we go. That's insane. So, is marrying someone you met because you spilled wine on them? We're already insane. Might as well commit to it. Zoe stared at him, this impossible man who'd turned her life upside down in the best way. What about the money you promised me? Already transferred to your account. Consider it a wedding gift. He traced patterns on her bare shoulder. You're free to leave anytime, Zoe. No contract holding you here. But I'm hoping you'll stay anyway. Why? Because I love you. Because you make me laugh. Because when I come home covered in other people's blood, you patch me up without asking questions. His voice roughened. Because you're the first person in 10 years who made me want something more than revenge or power or survival. Zoe's chest tightened. I love you too, even though you're absolutely crazy. Especially because I'm crazy. He kissed her again, deeper this time. So, will you stay? On one condition. Name it. I go back to school. Finish my degree. Become a surgeon. She met his eyes. I won't be just Mrs. Kong. I need my own life too. Pride flickered across his face.
Deal.
Though I should warn you, being married to me and being a surgeon? You're choosing 2 high-stress careers. I survived working 3 jobs. I can handle this. That's my girl. They spent the rest of Sunday in bed, ordering takeout and watching old movies and learning each other in ways the contract had never covered. Zoe discovered that Kong Dae was ticklish behind his left knee, that he made this breathless sound when she kissed his throat, that he liked when she wore his shirts and nothing else. And Kong Dae discovered that Zoe sang off-key in the shower, that she got competitive about movie trivia, that she fit perfectly against his side like she'd been designed to be there. This is domestic bliss, isn't it? Zoe asked that evening, curled up against him on the couch. If domestic bliss involves mob bosses and fake marriages turn real, then yes. When do we tell people that it's real? We don't. His hand ran through her hair, absently. As far as the world knows, this was always real. That's safer for you. Safer how? If people think you're a business arrangement, you're leverage. If they think you're the genuine love of my life. His smile was dark. You're untouchable. No one messes with the things I actually care about. Zoe considered this. Your world is complicated.
Yes.
But you're smart enough to navigate it. He pulled her onto his lap. We'll figure it out together. The business, your medical school, the family, all of it. Together. Together, Zoe echoed. Then, because she was feeling brave. So, this means you're stuck with me now.
Good.
His eyes glinted with heat. I was planning on keeping you anyway. That night, as Seoul glittered outside their windows and Kong Dae's steady breathing filled the quiet, Zoe thought about the journey that brought her here. A spilled glass of wine. A desperate proposal. a contract she never should have signed. She'd walked into his world expecting a business transaction. She'd found a home instead. Somewhere in the city, enemies plotted. Rivals schemed. Danger lurked in every shadow. But here, in this moment, wrapped in silk sheets and strong arms, Zoe felt safer than she had in years. Because she wasn't facing the world alone anymore. She had him. And he had her. And that, Zoe was learning, made all the difference. The first real test came 6 weeks after the wedding. Zoe had just started back at university, juggling anatomy lectures and her new life as Mrs. Kong. The other students stared when she walked in, whispers following her like ghosts. That's her. The one who married Kong Dae. Wonder what she did to catch him. She ignored them, let them whisper. She had work to do. She was in the library, buried in a pathology textbook, when Jean appeared at her side. His expression was grim. We need to leave.
Now.
What's wrong? Not here. In the car, Jean finally spoke. There's been an incident. Mr. Kong wants you home immediately. What kind of incident? The kind that involves a lot of men with guns. Zoe's blood went cold. At the penthouse, she found Kong Dae in his office with a dozen men she didn't recognize. Maps spread across his desk. Photos of faces she'd never seen. He looked up when she entered, and relief flashed across his features. Everyone out, he ordered.
Now.
When they were alone, he pulled her into his arms. You're okay.
Ai fine.
Jean said something about guns. A rival family made a move. Tried to hit one of my warehouses. His jaw clenched. They failed, but it's escalating. The other families are getting bold. Because you got married. Because they think you're distracted. Yes. He pulled back to look at her. I won't lie to you, Zoe. The next few months are going to be dangerous. There will be more incidents. More threats. I can protect you, but I'm a liability now. The words tasted bitter. They'll use me to get to you. You're not a liability. He struggled for words. You're everything, which makes you a target. I need you to understand what that means. Zoe thought about the medical students whispering, the bodyguards shadowing her everywhere. The way Jean had grabbed her in the library, fear in his eyes. I understand.
Do you?
Because if you want out, if this is too much, don't. She pressed her fingers to his lips. Don't offer me an escape. I chose this. I choose you. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Remember? Something fierce and grateful lit his eyes. Together. But together proved harder than either of them anticipated. The attacks increased. Not on Kong Dae directly. He was too well protected, but on his businesses. A nightclub firebombed. A shipment hijacked. Warehouses raided. Each incident cost money, cost lives, cost Kong Dae pieces of himself. He came home later and later, when he came home at all. When he did, he was distant, haunted. The lightness they'd found after the wedding disappeared under the weight of war. Talk to me, Zoe begged one night after he'd been gone for 3 days straight. What do you want me to say? That I'm tired? That I'm losing? He poured himself a drink, his third since coming home. That every decision I make gets someone killed? I want you to let me help carry it. You can't. This isn't your world, Zoe. You shouldn't have to. But I do. Because I love you. Because watching you destroy yourself is worse than any threat. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to face her. Let me in. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then finally something cracked. I'm scared, he whispered. I'm so fucking scared that I'm going to lose you. That someone will take you to hurt me and I won't be able to stop them. That won't happen. You can't know that. His voice broke. My world takes everything good and destroys it. I've watched it happen over and over. And now you're the good thing, and I don't know how to keep you safe. Zoe's heart shattered. She pulled him into her arms, and this strong, dangerous man who never showed weakness collapsed against her. Then don't do it alone, she said fiercely. We're married. For real. That means your burdens are mine. Your fears are mine. Your war is mine. I don't want this life for you. Too bad. You married me.
You're stuck with me.
She pulled back, making him look at her. So stop trying to protect me from your world and let me stand beside you in it. Something shifted in his expression. Understanding. Acceptance.
Hope.
Okay, he breathed. Okay. That night, he told her everything. About the rival families, the alliances, the betrayals. About his father's death, his uncle's coup attempt, the decade of violence that brought him here. He laid his world bare, every ugly piece, and waited for her to run. Zoe didn't run. She listened, asked questions, made suggestions that showed she was sharper than anyone gave her credit for. You see this shipment route?
She pointed to one of his maps.
It's predictable. They know you'll use it. What if you varied the pattern? Made it random? Kangdae stared at her, then at the map. That could work. And this warehouse they keep hitting? What if it's a trap? Set it up like a target, wait for them to strike, then catch them in the act. His eyes lit up. You're brilliant.
I'm practical.
Like someone I know. Over the next weeks, they worked together. Zoe brought fresh eyes to problems Kangdae had been too close to see. Her medical training helped her think systematically, break down complex situations into manageable parts. And slowly, the tide turned. The attacks decreased. Kangdae's men caught 3 of the rival family's operatives. Intelligence improved. What had been a losing war became a stalemate, then something resembling victory. You did this, Kangdae told her one evening, studying the reports that showed their progress. We did this, Zoe corrected. We. He pulled her into his lap, kissing her temple. I like that.
Good.
Because you're stuck with it. That night, for the first time in weeks, they made love instead of just collapsing into exhausted sleep. And afterward, tangled in sheets and each other, Kangdae whispered, I don't know what I did to deserve you. You spilled wine on yourself and offered me a ring, Zoe said. Best mistake of my life. Mine too. Outside, Seoul glittered with danger and possibility. But inside, they had each other. And that, they were learning, was enough to face anything. The 6-month mark came and went without fanfare. Zoe was in surgery rotation now, spending long hours at the hospital, coming home exhausted and exhilarated. Kangdae had consolidated his power, his position unassailable after the victory over the rival families. They'd found a rhythm, messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. I have something for you, Kangdae said one evening over dinner. Zoe looked up from her case notes. If it's another property deed, I'm divorcing you. We have enough houses. Not a property deed. He slid a folder across the table. Open it. Inside was a contract. Zoe's eyes widened as she read. This is the original agreement. Or what's left of it. He'd kept a copy after all. I wanted you to see the date. 6 months ago today, you became my fake fiancé. Zoe's throat tightened. Kangdae, I know we're past this. I know we're real now. But I wanted to mark the occasion anyway.
He took her hand.
6 months ago, you were drowning in debt, working yourself to death, with no way out. Look at you now. Zoe looked at herself. Designer clothes she'd learned to wear comfortably, a ring on her finger that meant something now, a husband who looked at her like she hung the moon. I'm different. You're happy, he corrected. That's all I wanted. To see you happy. I am. She squeezed his hand. Exhausted, occasionally terrified, constantly surprised by how crazy my life has become. but happy.
Good.
He pulled out another paper. Because I have one more thing. This was handwritten. Short. Simple. I, Kangdae, promise to love Zoe Chin for however long she'll have me.
No contracts.
No terms.
No endings.
Just us, for as long as we both want this. And I, Zoe Chin, promise the same. A new contract, Zoe breathed. Not a contract. A promise. His eyes were soft. Sign it if you want. Or don't. It doesn't change anything. I just wanted you to know this is real. All of it. The good, the bad, the absolutely insane. I choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life. Tears blurred Zoe's vision. You're such a romantic. Only for you. She signed it. Of course she did. Then Kangdae signed it, and they folded it together and put it in a frame that went on the wall in their bedroom. A reminder of how they started and how they chose to continue. That night, curled up together on their couch, Zoe thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago. Terrified, desperate, reaching for a stranger with napkins because she couldn't afford to lose another job. That girl never could have imagined this. A marriage that became real, a love that grew from practicality, a life that was chaotic and dangerous and hers. What are you thinking about? Kangdae murmured. Wine stains. He laughed. Specific wine stain, or just the concept. The wine stain that changed my life. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't spilled it? If I'd made it through that dinner service without incident? You'd probably still be working 3 jobs, drowning in debt. His arms tightened. And I'd be alone, fighting a war I was slowly losing, with no one to come home to. So we saved each other. We did. He kissed the top of her head. Best $5,000 suit I ever ruined. Best proposal I ever accidentally triggered. They laughed together, and outside Seoul glittered with 1,000 stories, 1,000 lives intersecting and diverging. But in this penthouse, in this moment, their story was the only one that mattered. It started with a spilled glass of wine and a ring offered in desperation. It became a love story neither of them saw coming. And it would continue, Zoe knew, for as long as they both kept choosing it. Choosing each other. Every single day. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, Kangdae replied. Even if you do spill things. Zoe elbowed him. He caught her hand and kissed it. And in that ordinary moment, so different from their dramatic beginning, they found their extraordinary ending. Or rather, their beginning. Because the best love stories don't end. They just keep going. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. I love you all.